Today, in our Futures Thinking podcast, my guest is Serdal Avci, Arcelik Design Director, with whom I talk about why you need to listen to your heart and why the brain will follow. Why does he keep his first iPhone? What is the job of the industrial designer and design director? How to read the future and incorporate it in today's company's strategies? What data science, data collection, and data interpretation has to do with it? Why you should listen not to answer, but to understand. You are listening to the Futures Thinking podcast, where we are sharing live conversations with people of business, design, arts, culture, science, and nature who are shaping our futures today. I'm your host, Agata Bisping. Hello, Korkut. It's a pleasure to have you at our Futures Thinking podcast.
Hello, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I believe it's going to be an interesting conversation.
I hope so.
Okay.
I've been running through some files and information about you, and also I've been sent your bio, obviously, to have myself prepared for the conversation. And what I found from those files, from those data, is that you've graduated from Aeronautical Engineering. And what has brought you from that to product design and system design? You are the design director at Arcelik, which is one of the major home appliances producer in the world, actually. And how does that correlate, your education with what you are doing now?
I was attending to a seminar in Istanbul Technical University because I was graduated from there. And it was about this subject as well. Many people having education in different businesses, different sectors, are doing different things right now. And I'm one of them for the university as well. What happened is, since my childhood, I was very much interested in solving issues, solving problems technically. And aeronautics was one of my dreams. I was drawing pictures on my primary school books and notebooks. And even I was drawing pictures, animated pictures of the planes, new structures. I was designing them back then. That when you just turn on the pages of the book, it flies. So it was a dream for me, and I follow my dream and just get into the university to be educated on aeronautics. It was very interesting, quite intense, of course. I love mathematics, so it was about mathematics, it was about physics. So what happens in engineering is in the engineering schools, they teach how you solve an issue. How you can find resources to solve an issue. It's like, not just giving you a fish, but teaching you how to catch a fish. It's similar to that one. So it's an analytical thinking method that they teach. And it was very interesting for me to get into that one. And during all these years of the education, I, of course, just follow some other beats coming from my heart about arts, about economics, because what I just did after finishing the school as an aeronautical engineer, it was engineering management that I get into. I studied that about 6-8 months, and I said, this is done. I will not be doing this. And then I started economics. I was very much interested in economics back then. I did my education in US for economics, micro and microeconomics. So after getting back from US to Turkey, I just get into design. For the appliances. Actually, the seeds were just during the education, second year of the education of aeronautics, because I met with computer-aided graphics back then, computer-aided design. Those years, like 1987, 88, It was AutoCAD, very extensive CAD system back then. It's not very extensive, but I mean, it was interesting back then. And I did my study on that to draw my flow of the air around an airplane on a CAD system. I just do the coding and everything. So it was very interesting, and it got into my blood as a virus, the computer design. And through that, it evolved to a different direction. So after I got back from US with some other information about economics, management, and design, I decided to go with the design. And so it was the opportunity that I met back then. And the opportunities with what is beating in your heart is drawing your path. So it was my way to start the design in 1993 or something like that, 92, 93. I just started as a mechanical design engineer for appliances.
Okay, you said you followed your heart, but what did the brain said?
Brain is adapting. So
I really like
as I said, analytical thinking is just evaluating the input, the data, and just draws lines in between pros and cons, and you decide with your evaluation criteria. So as much as you just collect data, you have more input to decide. And my decision back then was evaluating with what I feel doing what, and what is triggering my feelings about the arts. Those kind of things just draw me the path to get into the designing of products. I mean, it's very much different than being an aeronautical engineer working in a factory. In my soul, I still have an interest on the airplanes. I mean, I know all the airplanes in the market today, what is developing. I mean, it's about an interest. So I'm very much interested in the aeronautics. I still follow what's going on, but my heart is beating for design right now.
For design. You said that you follow your heart and the brain will adapt. And I'm wondering if, as a leader, this is something that you say to people that follow you, because leader is someone that is being followed. Leader is someone who sets not trends, but sets the paths. Someone who says, okay, let's go this way, and everyone will follow. And if they have doubts, do you tell them, listen to your heart and the brain will follow?
I try to do that. I mean, leader in different businesses, leaders are doing different things, I believe. So I just resemble being a leader like being a captain or skipper of a sailing boat. Because the wind is coming from different directions, in different speeds, different powers, and you have some tools to adjust your direction on the boat. I mean, sometimes from going from one point to the other is not always a straight line. Especially sailors know that. From going from one point to the other one, you have to just follow the direction of the wind to move the boat forward. And it's not something that you do it alone, usually. I mean, there are alone sailors going all around the world, but it's a different challenge. But as a team, if you're just doing something, you have to just guide the team on that direction, showing the pros and cons and the reasons why you do that, and try to hang on the same direction with the same enthusiasm. That's what I do. I mean, when I just have a target to do, of course, we have some directional paths that we decide as a strategy, but following the heart is something very different about your resources. If your resources have this feeling for a different direction, yes, you can say still follow your heart and I will support you. It sometimes happens in our team as well. I mean, we are a design team, and sometimes some of our designers say, I would like to get into academy and I would like to be a leader on teaching or something like that. So I talk to them and I support them. So they are leaving and they are going to the academy to teach what they learn and what they know to the young generation. So this is quite interesting. But I mean, if you just give this feeling to your colleagues as a team, that if you have something in your heart to follow, the leader is supporting you, it's a big relief, I believe.
Yeah, this is my conclusion also, that you need to be really mature to be able to trust your heart, not the data, not the statistics, but you also said that you need to have resources to listen to your heart, and that you need to fill it with data. But then again, you still need to be mature enough to understand that what fills your heart is equally important that the things that fill up your brain. So this is also not really so obvious for many leaders, that the intuition, that what fills you as a person with your inspiration is equally valuable than the something that is written as the statistics. But you, working as a design director, you work with industrial design and you work with innovation. And I was wondering, what is your definition of innovation?
Innovation, yeah, that's a need. Just thinking about, let's talk about our business. I mean,
Sure.
As an appliance company, it's not only appliances that we're interested. Okay, what we're doing is we're trying to ease the life of people at home. We're doing it with different brands. We have 13 different brands all around the world. Major brands are known like Arcelik, like BEKO, like Grundig, Arctic. So these are the brands. Some of them are worldwide known brands. Some of them are local brands. And what we always try to do is to just solve some problems at home to reduce the home chores. This is very important. And we are trying to bring something new to the market always. And the brand is very important in that sense, because these brands have promises for people. And whatever the brand says, the brand has to do that. If there's something that brand is promising, it has to be realized. Then it will bring the trust. And in that sense, we believe that a lot in all the markets that we operate. And in that sense, as the life is changing in many aspects, I mean, the pandemic changed it a lot. And just before the pandemic, digital transformation was changing it a lot. And the technology is so fast, and we have to adapt to the technology. You well remember probably the quote from Darwin. I'm not just exactly the same. I will not use exactly the same words, but he was saying that who will be able to survive in the future is not the most intelligent one, or is not the most strongest one. Who is going to adapt to what is changing is going to be surviving in the future. So I believe that a lot. I mean, what is changing in the market, in the life, and in the expectations of the consumers, users, I would say, the brands with their promises have to just realize what is expected. And they have to guess what is going to be expected as well. And this is done by just collecting data, what's going on today, what's going to happen tomorrow, and what may happen in the future. And the brands and the companies who are doing whatever has to be prepared for that one. So have to be prepared for new kind of proposals, which is thought to be innovations, brought to the people to solve some problems, bring some new things for them. And what I truly believe, while trying to solve these problems, they have to touch the emotions and the feelings of the users. That will create a strong connection between whatever they bring as a service or as a product, and between the product and the service to the consumer. There has to be a very strong link of emotional touch, which is driven by the experience. So we're not saying that we're designing products or services. We are saying that we are creating new experiences. And these experiences are coming from the new products. and designers' responsibility, not only the industrial designers, but designers as system designers as mechanical designers. I truly believe if they don't come together to bring a product, the product will not appear. So it will be only on the paper or the idea or the screen of the designer. But as the teams come together to realize that, it will just come as a real product which is going to be used. And people are expecting these kind of touches in their life, which continuously improve and create some new solutions for them. So innovation is about trying to give new promises, new experiences, new excitement to users to create services or products.
Okay. There are a few questions that pop up in my mind, and you say that brands, they give promise. Where is the fulfillment of the promise? Because I can promise you something, but as long as I will not fulfill it, it is just a vain information. How brands with innovation can fulfill the promise?
Mm-hmm. That's very important. That's what I say. If the innovation is not just providing a fulfillment on the promise, then the trust disappears. And if the trust disappears, a brand will not be perceived as good. And if you want to, as a whole organization, whole system, trying to provide services or products to users to solve some problems or bring something new, a new device, a new phone, a new washing machine, a new refrigerator, a new car, whatever you give as promises as the brand has to fulfill the promised values. The values are very important for these brands. It's thinking about our brand, for example. We say as Arcelik, we respect the world and respect it globally. Which means that we are quite aware of what's changing in the world right now in terms of environment. And everybody's talking about climate change, right? And everybody's talking about their products' carbon footprints. Yeah. Or how their products, but the way they produce those products. So being a carbon neutral company, for example, is a promise, right? Because you say as a brand, we respect the world and respect it globally. If you respect the world, you have to just care about your carbon footprint for the world. Since 2019, I believe, Arcelik is in our business, in our sector, is the only company. There are other companies in different businesses as well, but we are carbon neutral. And we're hearing right now, after this climate change, after the pandemic, it's getting more popular and everybody's aware of what's changing, what are the consequences, everybody's discussing about that. And right now, the companies are starting to talk about, we're going to be carbon neutral starting 2027, 25, 2030. We are already at that stage. So there are different phases of the environment concept, for example. That's a promise. So when that promise comes, it has to come with your reality as a product, as a manufacturing company, and you have to just prove that so that the consumer is going to trust you. And if it is not coming only from the way you produce the products, for example, it has to come up with the products. So the way the product is bringing a carbon footprint concept into the market right now is something new for the companies. And I'm quite sure every company is aware of that one and working heavily on that one.
Sure. I was also wondering whether an innovation could be not only helping at home, but making men help at home. In many countries, still innovation is that you have a new cooker or a new whatever home appliances there is. But when you see it's majority women doing the housework, so maybe it would be an innovation to make a product that would make men feel comfortable at home helping women. This is just my comment.
Indeed, it's changing. I mean, indeed, it's changing. We were just as a manufacturing company, heavily working on the appliances. Of course, for years we're just tracing what's changing in the market, and we call it trend watch. And this is very important. And it's not only about the technology, it's about the human expectations. It's about the economy. It's about the social life and everything. So we have been tracing this for the last maybe 10 years, but for the last 7 years, we are heavily, every year we are just updating our information because, I mean, I cannot say it's drastically changing every year, but there are some little adjustments and changes every year. And for years, I believe around 3 to 4 years back, we have been saying about the social change of the social equality in the social status of the people at home and the society at work. So men started to work at home a bit more than it was before. And different countries have different habits or traditions. And
cultures,
the company,
sure.
Yeah, cultures are just changing their habits and traditions and behavior for sure. But we believe it's still changing. I mean, it's on a transition right now, and the way the services and the experiences are coming to market is affecting that a lot. So we cannot say because of this happened. There are many connections. There are many dots that you have to connect to come up to a result. And as a service provider, as a product provider for some home, ease of solutions at home, we have to be tracing those kind of things. And whoever is going to use what at home is a question for us as well.
Yeah, so, that's great.
If your product is inviting in that manner to create a solution, then it's going to be faster. And that's what we are targeting. And it's not easy to just do everything at once, but you have to be ready and propose some alternatives, doing that kind of solution for the market.
I'm just glad that you, as a leader of home appliances suppliers, you see that experience as being needed, that it is intertwined, that it's not only the culture that is changing, but that you also can influence that change. And this all combined can really push things forward. The other question about the innovation and a comment that is coming from your perspective is that, do you think that we need any new things? Do we really need to produce new appliances? Does the world, isn't it full with all stuff that are already there? Do we need to really produce more?
Yeah, that's true. People need that because, I mean, there are a few things that we have to consider. I mean, let's put it in that way. The technology 10 years back is different than today. And we have the promise of we are respecting the world. So with the tech, I mean, I will give some little examples so that we can elaborate to different directions. For talking about the refrigerator that has been created like about 10, 20 years back, the energy consumption of that refrigerator, depending on the technology, depending on the materials, was different than what is on today, okay? And in this respect, when you're talking about, you're caring about the environment, you have to care about the energy consumption, because while just providing that energy, there is a carbon footprint to bring that energy to the point where the device is going to be used, okay? And in that sense, it's a responsibility for appliance manufacturers to reduce the energy level of whatever the product is on the market today. And it's a continuous struggle. And it's a continuous development as well, because technology is changing, the material sciences are changing, and we constantly work on the improvement of the products to provide the best out of it, okay? And in that sense, what is good yesterday is still not good today. So we have to just bring out something new. Your responsibility, though, when you had brought that product to the market 10 years back, you have to have the muscles as a company to collect them back and provide new product, which is going to consume less energy. And again, I mean, talking about Arcelik in Turkey, especially in the foreign countries that we operate, we are trying to do that, but there are different regulations, different synergies of the economy over there. But in Turkey, we are the only appliance company who collect our devices from the market. And we have 2 factories that we created that we, regardless of the brands, okay, not only our brands we collect any appliance while replacing that appliance with a new performance. And that's a responsibility. So do we need something new? I mean, just considering the expectations of the consumer, that new houses are going to be created, new families are going to be established. So new family establishment brings a new home, and that new home is requiring new devices. And in that sense, yes, you have to bring something new always. And not only for the new families, new people, new users, but also for, as I said, the replacement of the previous ones in terms of performance, in terms of energy, in terms of user experiences. I mean, we're not using mechanical devices, which has a huge history back. Right now, we're using touch screens because people require those kind of things, not only for fun, but those kind of things brought through new technologies, they brought new opportunities. Like devices are more connected right now. So whatever the device is doing, you can trace it through your mobile system, and you can provide new services along that one. So people need those kind of things, I believe. And in that sense, it's a continuous cycle, I believe. The only thing that you have to provide as the leading companies in providing different services or products, you have to create this circular economy. This circular economy is going to be an investment for the future, for our children, for the youth, for the future of the world as well. Not only this, but also the business models are changing as well. So as a service provider, a company provider, experience provider, I would say, the way that you think about the business as a designer, as a system provider, as an engineer, as a research and development engineer with the new technologies and everything, you have to think about the new business models as well. I mean, do we have to sell always the product? Why don't we just create a kind of subscription model to provide a service instead of selling the product? There are different dynamics for that in different countries. And honestly speaking, we're working on this model as well. And it may be just coming up in the close future. But that's for your question, to answer your question. We need something new in order to provide some new solutions, for sure, to solve some problems. And that will bring new business models, for sure. And we will see that in the near future.
That's the great answer. The one that really brings hope. I mean, the part in which you say that you substitute the old that is not environmentally friendly or efficient with something that responds to that need. But then another question for me arises: what do you do with the products that you collect? Do you give them the second life? How do you take care of products that are no longer useful or ready to meet the expectations of 2021?
We consider both. I mean, if it's possible to just give a second life, we can kind of repair or reshape the product. But mostly when people decide to change their products, it's old products. I mean, these products are durable products. They have life like 5, 10, 20 years. And in that sense, talking about a product which is brought to change, to, if you make it rework again, you should just put it in the museum to show that there was something 20 years ago doing that kind of work and that kind of thing. Nobody will just take that product as to use at home. And in that respect, what we do mostly, honestly speaking, is to recycle them. Just distribute all the parts, metals, plastics, electronic parts, some insulation parts, and try to just separate them from each other and cycle them to the economy again in different ways. And in that sense, we're saving a lot of energy in the environment today.
Great. You've been talking a lot about the future and how you use the trends, the translation of the trends in your everyday work. It is also, I think, double hard because you are a global company, so there are a lot of cultures that are being touched by different trends. How do you use the forecasters, the foresight, the trend tellers, trend translators? How do you use that in your everyday work?
I mean, as a designer, as a design team, I would just talk as the leading person for that design team. Our radars, the sensors, should be on always, regardless we have the energy or not. We have to capture what's going on always. So what we're trying to do is periodically try to collect that information from different resources, internal and external, and evaluate them together as a design team and share this information with the rest of the company who is designing the future of the company. As an organization, we have different groups. We have design team, we have research and development team, we have product management team, and we have the facilities, different facilities who will be working on or who will be focusing on production of that dedicated device, the dedicated appliance. And the marketing is very much involved in what is changing, what is expected in the market as well. So we have a system that we call brand roadmap. And the roadmap that you create is just focusing on the very next year and 3 years ahead and 5 years ahead. So what's going to change in the technology? What's going to change in the lifestyles and the trends and the design as well? What's going to change in the expectations of the market? And what is most well perceived today in the market? All those information is just put into the pool, and the company decides what's going to be the road for that special brand. Because as I said, the brand is very important. It was like about product roadmap, like about 5-10 years ago, because it's very much related to the technology of the product, and we were trying to provide the best product in the market. But yes, you can do that, but what is the promise of the brand? For which brand you will do that? What's going to be the story behind it? Because people are not just following the material of an oven or the UI of an oven, but what is the promise for that brand, for that oven, is the question at home, okay? And in that sense, we are just behind the story of what the brand is promising, and to just write this story in a proper way with enough rational data, you have to know what is changing in the market. What is the trend? 5 years ago, what it was, and how it changed to today, and what's going to happen in the future. And in that sense, I was talking about that in the beginning of our discussion. The data that you collect is very important. And today, it's the core of everything. It's like the blood on the vessels of the human. If you don't have enough data, if you don't have enough clean data, it's not easy to just define what's happening. It's not easy to define what's going on. And if you don't have enough data, it's not easy to define or predict what's going to happen. And furthermore, it's going to be just very strong. And in AI technologies, it's just defined as descriptive data, predictive data, or prescriptive data. So if you have some prescription for the feature, you have to have that data, analyze it, and just provide alternative solutions for that one, and be able to test it very quick. Because the way it just realized in the market today, in the environment, in the technological environment, in the marketing environment, in the social environment, the way the things are realized is changing so rapidly. So you have to have the muscles to be fast, to test, and test it quick. And if it fails, just make a pivot point and turn around and do something else.
This is overwhelming, because you have so many data and so many skills you have to adjust and add and then produce, and right. Not be afraid to fail, to make mistake point, to sometimes to turn around or to turn in a different direction. I was wondering, how do you build up the skills, translator of the futures thinking, of the trends, of the knowing of the environment into a product? You've basically said that you need to take all the data, translate it, conclude it, and put into the product. But this is what your design team is doing. You are like a translator of the trends into the actual actions, tasks, and you envision the product that is a consequence of all the knowledge from the market, from the trends, and you say, okay, we bet on this, and this is that we go for.
I would not say that's only the sole responsibility of the design team. Yes, design team is providing that kind of information, but just realizing the product, all these team members, as I said, the different muscles has to be reinforced in order to just come to a solution. Marketing has this mindset of what's changing in the future, what should be our story. This is very important. And research and development, in terms of mechanical solutions, in terms of material solutions, in terms of electronical solutions, in terms of digital solutions, they have to be prepared what is changing. And as design, we have to be prepared about what is the expectation of the consumer, what they are looking for, and as I was just saying that in the portion of my description before, we are trying to create an emotional connection between the device that we create and between the consumer. This is very important. If you just connect it through that intuition, through that simplicity, through that functionality, with an artistic touch, then you make this connection. And our responsibility as design team is just coming from the form, from the material, from the way it is being used, how you touch it. Even, I'm talking about very little detail, but I mean, talking about if you have a device, we worked a lot on that one. That's why it just created a mark in my brain. We created a Turkish coffee machine, and we were working a lot in order to just that coffee machine be visible 360 degrees. Not just take the coffee machine, put it in the worktop, and it's just standing in front of a door, and it's there, and it's going to be used there. But just put it in the center of a table, and it's going to be visible all around. When it is going to be visible all around, a consumer doesn't want to see any screw. Okay, so that's a push for the designer to create that form and shape, that there won't be any visible connection elements. It's going to be a kind of object in your living environment, which is going to do your function. What do you want to do? You want to have a coffee, okay? And it's the best way. You have a Turkish coffee with that machine. It's in the middle of your living environment, wherever you want to put it, and there's no screws all around that. That's no screws is a big argument with research and development mechanical designers and designers. So those little details that you just put as the designer insight to make this feeling in terms of form perception, in terms of experience perception that you put on the product, are very important, and you have to work hand in hand with the different teams, system designers, mechanical designers, material designers together to realize that product. And in that sense, through your question, yes, we have to just create innovation to the brand, to promise for the brand, providing that kind of different solution, solving their problems with all those promises as a story behind. Because when you do that, for example, for that coffee machine, if you're using, say, 30% recycled material, then you're just doing your promise as well. Not only the perception of the product, that emotional touch, how you use it, the appearance, the color of the product, but consumer knowing that this product is produced with a strong desire to keep sustainability and use recycled parts in the structure. That's very important. Today, for example, for the washing machines, it's not a visible part today, but inside the washing machine, we have a tub that we have the mechanical drum rotating inside what washes the garments. This tub is a big plastic part. So we're using, for example, for this plastic part, PET bottles, these plastic bottles. For a single tub, we're using around 60, 70 PET bottles. And since last two years, I believe around 70 million PET bottles were being recycled. So you're providing something new, but with that, you have a story behind that's just giving a new performance, new energy level with that appliance. And of course, the aesthetics of the product is changing. And of course, there's a lot of interest that design team is just putting into table in terms of what is going to be the experience, next experience in the digital environment for the consumer. We have to be able to provide new surprises for the user. And that's the responsibility of the designer as well. And to realize that, the team, the muscles that you have to have is the research and development engineers, mechanical designers, material engineers in the team. And if you are thinking about these devices are going to be connected, and what happens, you get into the houses of the user, okay? And how they do the washing, how many times, which programs they use, what kind of textile they have. All that information can be collected with the consent, permission of the user for sure, to provide something new as a new service for the user. And in that sense, data collection, again, is very important. Then you have to have some data engineers. What is the clean data? How it's going to be collected? How it's going to be evaluated? And when during the course of this study, how we can provide the learning from that data. It's called machine learning. So through machine learning, you can create some new arguments for the appliances. So this is very much important. And through your question, what kind of muscles you have to develop? You have to have open eyes for everything. I mean, not only the designers, but also from these communities, you have to collect those kind of muscles to the team that you can just bring up something new, faster, better.
Yes, this is, I guess, that meeting with people who deal with futures and can take a little sparks of change, the signals of change to you and say, hey, listen, look at this at the horizon. This is something that it's going to rise and it's going to be big. It's a great food for thought on your daily work, for your daily work. It just makes your brain works differently and your heart beats faster. And yes, and then I have a question. What is the future for us? What is your perspective of the future? Are we prepared for the future or not?
I don't know. I mean, I believe we are in the future, but it is so fast in terms of technology, in terms of the expectations of the user. I mean, I'm reading a lot of articles about that, and the perception of the consumer is changing a lot. The way you transfer information or data to the user has to be very fast, very effective right now. And in terms of the lifestyles, everything is changing as well. As I said, I mean, as we're trying to trace what's changing in the social life, for example, single living is a growing argument in Europe for many reasons, many social reasons. And what is the expectation of a single house person at home to do? It's a big question. So for us, I mean, for different markets, there are different questions, I'm sure. And just focusing on what we do right now, as I said, different business models might be a solution for that kind of reason. Instead of just providing a product, providing a service with a model, different model might be a solution. So people will be very adaptive. I mean, we were talking about that while we were starting this conversation. You remember almost 2 years, 1.5 years passed already. It was March 2020. And I remember a conversation in our company saying that remote working, there is still time to do that, a few years. And we were talking about that in February 2020. And by the end of March 2020, everybody was working remote. So the speed and the adaptation of human with evolving technology is so fast. And I trust that. I trust that a lot. And just thinking about the way that we connect about a year ago and the way that we connect as of today with the improvement on the connecting devices, the softwares, the devices, is totally different. So in this 1 year, with the requirements, what happened in the last year, there are new solutions which is embedded to the solutions which were given last year. So the adaptation is, as again, I mean, what Darwin said is very important. We have to survive. And in that survival instinct, we have to adapt to change. And the future is about the change. So what is changed? You have to be prepared. You have to have enough muscles to change fast. And in the future survival ecosystem, you were asking this question a second ago. What kind of talent, what kind of capabilities you have to have in your organization? You have to be ready with what is going to be expected in the future. You have to be ready with those muscles right now. I mean, I was just giving you the example of data scientists, data analysts, machine language people. I mean, those kind of people will be working with the existing muscles to create something new for the future. So what is in the future, we don't know. But we have to be prepared for that one. And in order to be prepared for that one, as you said, we have to be looking for the signals. And they call it weak signals, but you shouldn't underestimate any signal. You have to be just following a signal. As you said, I mean, we just create some idea through a signal, create a solution or proposal with that signal, test it immediately. If it fails, just drop it, turn around and do something else. If it doesn't fail, hang on it and just evolve it to a different direction. So these muscles has to be evolved in order to just bring something new for the future.
And now I have some light questions for you, just to give us the idea of how.
Scary when you say
light.
Light, it's scary.
No, okay. So just so let me start with the first of this set of questions. Is what is your greatest amazement so far in design, in life, at work?
Okay. Yes, in life, in trying to just trace my feelings backwards. I am a father of a daughter, 16 years old. I remember 16 years ago, I was in the operation room when she's coming to the world. So the first breath that she take was my amazement. I mean, I was very much having a different feeling, complete different feeling when she just come to the world. So this is my amazement. I mean, people just have kids and grow them, but the way it happens is quite strong, touching the feelings. And that created a very strong mark in my heart again. So I was very much connected to that one. And about design, what's amazement for me? I cannot say only one product or something. I'm amazed with the design solutions when I see the simplicity of the solution, when I see the chosen material for the solution, when I see the form, not crowded, but calm forms for the product, then that amazes me. I mean, when I see a product like iPhone, the first iPhone, I still keep that, by the way. I mean,
Yes, that's the good investment, I guess, like comic books.
It is a good investment. Yeah. I was amazed with that product, the way they just wrote that one. When I see the Bang & Olufsen speakers with the wooden structure, I like that one. And I have seen appliance with some different user experience with different materials, simplified solution. I'm amazed at that one. So it's not single product that I'm amazed, but I'm just amazed with the simplicity solutions, the material solutions, and the functionality of the product as well. So everything that has these functions, so these prior specifications will amaze me probably.
Okay.
In design, in our design, I prefer not to say that one.
Okay, great. What is the biggest lesson you've learned professionally?
Okay, in my business life, I have been working with Arcelik almost 25 plus years. I learned to listen better. I mean, listen better my colleagues, listen better the consumer, listen not to answer, but to understand. This is the most important lesson I learned during my business life.
This is the last sentence. Listen not to answer, but to understand, is so mind-opening. It is such a different perspective. It just immediately humbles you and makes you think that you are a person that needs to understand in order to provide a better solution, and puts you in a standpoint in which I don't know better. I can just use your knowledge to provide better. This is really, yeah, this is really mind-changing for me caption. And the very last question, what does the youth has for us that we don't have?
Oh, hard question. I keep talking about data. What I believe, the speed of the data and the amount of data is the main change in the ecosystem. Okay. And just remembering when I met the PC, I was in the first years of university. And I was very much interested, of course. As I said in the beginning, I just met with a personal computer, and then I met with the computer design. It was the second or third year. And then the flow of data was different in my life. So thinking about the youth, the Z generation, and even the Alpha generation today, the amount of data that they have is huge. What is important is if this data is correct or not. And there's a lot of studies about it. And a lot of technologies try to democratize data, for sure, and make it as reliable as possible. Just distributing that data into different resources. And in that sense, thinking about the biological brain structure and the evolution of human with the survival adaptation word of Darwin is similar. I mean, there's not so biological biological change. What is change is the feed to this biological data. And the way they evaluate, the way they perceive, the way they decide is different as well. And that's the main difference. And when I'm talking to young generation, the Z generation, even the Alpha generation, my daughter is, I guess, Z generation. I'm very cautious and careful while talking to her. The reason is the way she evaluates data is different, and the way they approach, how do I say, they don't want to distribute or differentiate the groups. They are trying to listen everything together, and then they try to decide. And that's a quite valuable, I would say, talent, natural talent. As they just have a lot of data, they want to listen everything and decide after listening everything. And in that sense, I believe we have to just follow their instincts as signals. I mean, they may be strong or weak signals for the future, but that's very important to listen to them in that sense. What they perceive, what they get, and what they decide. If you listen more, trying to understand what they just bring up from that data, this will help us a lot for the future to create something, a better future. I mean, as design, I mean, when we talk about design, what design do? Design is going to do a better future. That's the idea, which touches the feeling of the human, and it's a betterment of life in every aspect. And in that sense, the youth has data right now, and the youth has a different method of evaluating data that we have to learn from them.
So let's keep our faith in youth. Thank you, Korkut, for this conversation, okay. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and I appreciate your call for this. I hope it helps, and it will just create some thought for the people as well. Thank you.
Thank you again. You are listening to the Futures Thinking podcast, where futures meet present, powered by Green Hat Innovation and 360inspiration.nl.